Back then, her former son-in-law was very handsome, looking different from usual, straighter and more defiant. For some reason, a naughty thought popped into Ms. Aditi's head, especially since it was late at night. Perhaps she too wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day with her former son-in-law. Aditi seduced Arjun, even though he refused to be groped. Finally, Aditi threatened, "If you won't serve me, don't come here again. Don't expect to be back with Dina." Arjun continued to resist, but Aditi managed to get him into the bedroom to vent her long pent-up desires. It had been a long time since his sensitive parts had been attacked. Hey, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into another real-life story that's as shocking as it is bizarre. This time, our story comes from Vijayapura, India. It's one of those places where cases involving aunties and uncles seem to grab attention. Strange, unusual, but real. What's the full story behind this one? Let's jump right into it and find out. Before we jump into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. The more, the merrier. So here's how the story goes. Meet Aditi, a beautiful widow from Vijayapura, India, born in 1967. Despite being in her 50s, she's still stunning, fit, and super sexy. And it's no surprise, she lives a pretty healthy lifestyle. Aditi works as a freelance gymnastics instructor at 3 different fitness centers and even runs her own beauty salon at home. She's pretty well off, thanks to the inheritance from her late husband, who was a mining entrepreneur. Aditi's 2 kids are doing great, too. Dina, the oldest, is 26, living with her mom, and working in finance at a resort hotel. Rahul, her younger brother, lives and works in Malaysia, but he comes back to India once a year to visit the family. It sounds like the perfect family, right? But in 2019, Aditi was a bit frustrated because Dina still didn't have a boyfriend. She couldn't understand it. Maybe her daughter was too picky, or maybe no guy had come along who caught her eye. But Aditi was sure there were plenty of guys who liked Dina. She just had high standards. So, Aditi took matters into her own hands and tried to set her daughter up. But Dina wasn't having it. She didn't want any part of her mom's matchmaking attempts. So, Aditi got creative. She went on Facebook and searched for potential suitors for her daughter, thinking Dina would want a man who was well off, good-looking, and in decent shape. And she found someone. His name was Amit, 37, and he seemed perfect. They started chatting online, and at first, Aditi was thinking of setting him up with Dina. But after talking for a while, she realized they actually clicked, and Aditi began to like him herself. So much for matchmaking her daughter. Amit had a way with words that had Aditi completely hooked. They met in person in March 2019 at a cafe in Vijayapura, and Aditi was shocked. Amit didn't look anything like his photos, and it turned out he'd used a ton of filters, maybe too many. She was pissed off, feeling totally deceived, and an argument broke out. Things got heated, and before anyone knew it, Aditi grabbed a steak knife from the table and went at him. Amit hit her back, and the restaurant manager had to call the cops. They were both taken to the police station, and Aditi spent 3 days in jail for the assault, while Amit was held for a week. In the end, the cops saw it as a misunderstanding, but it left Aditi frustrated. She wanted to take legal action, but her daughter talked her down, telling her to be more patient and cautious when meeting people from social media. Aditi, still a bit traumatized from her online dating disaster, decided to go a more traditional route. She asked her friends if they knew any good men who could be introduced to Dina. Dina, being a quiet, reserved type, was hard to match up with anyone. Aditi had gotten married at 22, and she couldn't understand why it was taking so long for her daughter to find someone. Women are supposed to be more passive, she thought. Eventually, a friend of a friend, Arjun, came into the picture. He was an administrative staff member at a travel agency. Though he was shorter and smaller than Dina, he seemed like a good match. Aditi pushed her daughter to give him a shot, and to Dina's surprise, she couldn't say no. Arjun and Dina hit it off, They were both shy and had no experience with relationships, so this was likely to be their first real love story. By September 2019, after just 4 months of engagement, Dina and Arjun got married. Dina was 26, and Arjun was 28. After the wedding, Dina and Arjun moved into a house that Arjun rented. The first 4 months of their marriage were filled with some pretty funny moments that Dina would tell her mom about. She said Arjun was super naive and always seemed confused about what to do when they were intimate. He was scared of everything, and every night before bed, he'd ask if he could hug her, like he needed permission. Dina also noticed some strange behaviors from her husband. Arjun would often talk to himself in the kitchen, the bathroom, or the living room when no one was around. It was odd, but not super noticeable. Aditi, her mom, started wondering if something was wrong with her son-in-law. She asked around to see if Arjun might have a history of mental health issues. After a few weeks of digging, they discovered that Arjun didn't have any serious psychiatric problems, but he did have a history of autism. It wasn't severe, and it didn't show much, but growing up, he was prone to seizures if he got too stressed or nervous. Aditi asked Dina if she ever noticed Arjun having any episodes during their marriage, but Dina said no. For some reason, Aditi didn't want to know too much about his medical past at the time. Maybe she was afraid it would scare Dina, especially since Arjun had probably been doing okay by then. Then the pandemic hit in 2020. Arjun was laid off from his job at a travel agency because there were no customers, and the travel industry basically shut down. Things started getting stressful for the couple. Even though Dina had been working at a resort for a while, the number of guests dropped, and she was barely making any money. After trying and failing to find another job, the financial strain became overwhelming. Arjun, especially, started stressing about all the bills and the rent. Tension grew, and with it, Arjun began having more frequent seizures. Dina quickly realized something wasn't right with her husband's health. She took him to the hospital for treatment and even borrowed money from her mom to cover the expenses. Eventually, Aditi told her daughter what she had discovered about Arjun's condition. Dina was shocked but accepted it. She tried to be understanding and patient. However, things didn't get any easier. With the lockdown keeping them mostly at home, Arjun's stress and anxiety levels went through the roof. He started having more outbursts, throwing things around, yelling, and being rude to Dina. This behavior took a toll on Dina, who had always been the calm one. She became more and more depressed, and her mom became her only confidant, stepping in to help pay the bills and support her. One day, Dina told Arjun they were out of rice, the bills hadn't been paid, and the rent was overdue. Arjun flipped out and had another seizure. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. A massive argument followed, and things got physical. Dina ended up with bruises on her hands and lips. Arjun's behavior just kept getting worse, and by February 2021, when the pandemic situation was starting to improve a little, Dina made the decision to file for separation. At first, the court didn't accept the separation because Arjun was fighting to keep the marriage together. But then Aditi stepped in, filing a report about the abuse her daughter had suffered. The court finally ruled in Dina's favor, and she moved back in with her mom in March 2021. As for Arjun, he ended up staying with his sister, Lakshmi, and her family. Lakshmi took care of him, helping him recover from everything. She didn't blame Dina for leaving Arjun. She understood how badly he'd treated his wife. Lakshmi spent the next few months teaching Arjun how to survive, rebuild himself, and apply for new jobs. She kept telling him that if he worked on getting his life together, Dina might take him back one day. Arjun, for his part, knew that the pandemic had been a big factor in the breakdown of his marriage, since both of them had lost their jobs and were crushed by financial problems. He hoped that by finding a job and getting his health in order, he could fix things with Dina and win her back. By October 2021, Arjun was on the mend. He had landed a new job in an insurance company and was working hard to get in shape again. He'd moved into a bigger rental house, hoping it would be the perfect place to bring his wife back home. Arjun was determined to win Dina back, something his sister Lakshmi wholeheartedly supported. He'd learned all about what it takes to melt a woman's heart, what gifts to give, and how to treat her right. So, after the new year, Arjun decided to make his move. He visited Dina at her mom's house and managed to get a conversation going. It turned out that Dina had returned to work at the resort where she had been before. During one of their chats, Aditi got mad and kicked Arjun out, but Dina calmed her mom down and spent some time talking with her ex-husband. The more Arjun tried to reconnect, the more he picked Dina up from work, and even though Aditi wasn't happy about it, Dina kept considering it. Aditi, however, repeatedly warned her daughter to be careful. "If this happens again, don't come complaining," she'd say. "You've seen how he was before. It's hard to change someone like that." Dina didn't rush into making any decisions, taking her time as Arjun repeatedly apologized and promised to change. He swore things would be better if they gave it another chance. Then came Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2022. Arjun showed up at Dina's place with flowers, chocolates, and a necklace to celebrate the day of love. But Dina wasn't home. She was out of town at a company event. Only Aditi was there to receive the gifts. At that moment, Aditi couldn't help but notice how different Arjun looked. He was more muscular, confident, and seemed challenging in a way she hadn't seen before. For some reason, a mischievous thought crossed Aditi's mind, especially as the evening grew late. Maybe she too wanted to mark the occasion, and the temptation to celebrate Valentine's Day with her ex-son-in-law became too strong to resist. Despite Arjun's refusal, she seduced him. And after a tense back and forth, Aditi threatened him. "If you're not willing to be with me, don't come back here. Don't think you can get back with Dina." Arjun still tried to resist, but eventually he gave in, and what followed was an intense night where he vented all his pent-up frustrations. The next few days were silent. No calls or pickups from work. It wasn't until January 19th, 2022, after a prayer session, that Dina was hit with some shocking news. She came home to find her house crowded with police and people. Her mother, Aditi, had been attacked by a woman wielding a broken bottle and was in a coma. Aditi was rushed to Vijayapura General Hospital for treatment, and to make things even worse, the authorities had arrested the attacker, Arjun's sister, Lakshmi. Miraculously, after 2 surgeries and a critical recovery period, Aditi's life was saved. But the situation didn't end there. Lakshmi, furious and fighting back, reported Aditi to the police, accusing her of the horrific act against Arjun. Even though Arjun was scolded by the officers and mocked for his actions, Dina stepped forward to defend her ex-husband. She told the authorities that if her mother had done something wrong, she should be held accountable. But Dina also made it clear that people shouldn't assume only men are capable of immoral acts. Sometimes, men can be victims too. She reminded the officers that Arjun had his struggles, and he was sick, trying to get better. Meanwhile, Aditi admitted to everything that had happened that night, but she claimed it was all consensual. She had seduced Arjun to prove herself as a worthy stepmother and to try to bring him back into the family fold. She said it was her way of trying to reconcile with Dina, believing that if she did this, Arjun would be accepted back. But Dina was furious and disgusted by what her mother had done. She couldn't understand why Aditi would take advantage of a situation where Arjun was vulnerable, struggling, and trying to get his life back on track. Dina knew that Arjun would do anything to fix their relationship, but not like that. According to Lakshmi's account, shared through her lawyer, Arjun came home that Valentine's night feeling down but didn't say a word about it. He didn't want to eat, was quiet, and didn't even go to work the next day. It wasn't until he saw a doctor that he finally opened up about what had happened. He told her how he had been forced to do things he couldn't believe, things that his in-laws demanded of him, including being told to kiss Aditi's panties. That's when Lakshmi snapped. Her brother was obviously devastated, and she knew she had to do something. So she went to Dina's house, and a big argument broke out. Aditi's mother actually attacked Lakshmi first, hitting her with a spatula. In defense, Lakshmi grabbed a ketchup bottle, broke it, and used it to protect herself. Fast forward to July 29, 2022, when the case went to court. The judge ruled in favor of Lakshmi, stating that her actions were a form of self-defense. She was found guilty of second-degree criminal misconduct but got a sentence of only 6 months in jail. On the other hand, Aditi was convicted of misconduct and coercion, though she received a much lighter sentence, just 3 months, since the evidence from Arjun's side wasn't very strong. Despite everything that happened, the drama seemed to bring Arjun and Dina closer together. They ended up getting remarried in August 2022. As for Aditi, she had no desire to reconnect with her daughter or son-in-law. The only way they communicated with each other was through Rahul, who kept them updated on what was going on. What lessons can we learn from this story?